Welcome to On the Way Classroom with Tony Crisp. Each weekday, Monday through Friday, Dr. Crisp will teach the Bible from its historical, geographical, linguistic, and cultural context. Tune in daily to start your day right and to deepen your understanding of how to better walk the way and enjoy the journey. Now, here's your host, Dr. Tony Crisp.
Welcome to On the Way Classroom. I'm so glad that you've joined us. I'm Tony Crisp, and today we're going to go through the entire Old Testament. I want to preface what I say today by saying I have divided the entire Old Testament, what is called the Tanakh, the Law, the Prophets, and the Writings by the Jews. I have divided that according to the order of the Septuagint. Now, I need to explain that to you before we go through these 10 time periods. Our particular order of books in our English Bibles is not the order that Jesus would have used, that the apostles would have used in the only Bible that they had, which was the Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. That's the law, the prophets, and the writings. That is the order that is given by Jesus in Luke 24 when he said that all of those spoke of him. It would be Luke 24:44. When you look at that, you're going to see that Jesus varies just a bit because he talks about the law, the prophets, and the Psalms. Now, the reason he said that is a clue that Jesus was ultra familiar with the scriptures. And the reason is the Psalms is the first scroll of the writings of the Ketuvim. And so those who were familiar, so familiar as he would have been with the Tanakh, that he just simply said the law, the prophets, and the Psalms, which that would have been the first book of the Ketuvim or the writings. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because our English Bibles are not set up that way. What we call the Old Testament and the order of books and the categorization of the books is coming directly from the Greek translation of the Hebrew Scriptures. Now, that was done 270 years before Jesus was born in Bethlehem. It was done in Alexandria, Egypt, at the command of Ptolemy, who would have been the ruler of that area. Now, you remember that all of the Greco-Roman world of the New Testament spoke 3 languages or 4. Many would have spoken, of course, Latin during the days of Jesus. That is the Roman language. They would have all spoken Aramaic in their homes in the area called Israel in the Bible, and of the Jews in general. But then they would have spoken Hebrew in the synagogues and in any kind of temple worship or any kind of ritual that was related to the Scriptures. But then the entire world would have known Greek, Koine Greek, common Greek. And that's the language of the Greeks of Alexander the Great. And when he crossed the Hellespont and went into modern-day Turkey and all the way to the Ganges River in India, he took his language with him. I believe that was in the great sovereignty of God so that the entire world would have a common language, that the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ, could be spread throughout the world. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the intertestamental period. But I want you to understand that our particular division of books and categorization of books and order of books is not that of the Hebrew Bible. It is that of the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible called the Septuagint, which means 70. And there's reasons for that we will deal with again when we get to the intertestamental period, those 400 silent years between the close of the Old Testament, the Tanakh, and the opening of the New Testament with the announcement of the birth of John the Baptizer. And so let's get back to the book order and how we divide the entire Old Testament. Now, the reason we're doing this is because there's 39 books in our English Bibles. And if we're going to section and learn those and learn in sections as God has given it, we need to divide those up. And I have developed a method that allows us to divide into a fourth of what those 39 books are down to 10 time periods. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through and name and give you all of the 10 time periods as I see them divided in the Old Testament. And then I'm going to go back and give you the dates of that. And then we're going to go back and tell you why those are divided as they are and why I've chosen to give them the names that I've given them. But I can assure you, whether you use this method or whether you use any other method, it is helpful for you to get a grasp on the great story of God. And in order to do that, you need to divide these sections up in a way that you can understand. Remember that life is a cinch, inch by inch, but it is hard, yard by yard. And the more you try to put in one division, the reality is the less that you're going to remember. It's more likely that you're going to remember shorter spans and more of those than just one huge bite at a time and trying to learn all of the sequence of the 39 books at one time. So I'm dividing those up. So I want you to understand you can download these time periods with a lot more material. And we're going to make new charts available for you in the month of February so that you can download those and you can use those to teach. All that I ask is that if you download these, don't change them. You can make them your own. That's not a problem with me. There's nothing new under the sun. But don't take word for word what I say and just use it without some kind of acknowledgement that you have had help from other people. We all need help, and that's okay. But don't change up something and then say that I said it because that's what you said. And so that's very important as well. So here we go. We began with the first 3 or 4 in the last session, but what I'm going to do now in this classroom period is I'm going to divide up the entire Old Testament according to periods, and I'm going to, first of all, name those for you so you can get these down, and I'll go over them 2 or 3 times so that you can do that. Why? Because repetition is the mother of learning, and we're going to do this together. So here we go. The first period I label the primeval period. The primeval period. Second is the period of the patriarchs, the patriarchal period. The third period is the period of the Exodus. The fourth period is the period of conquest. The fifth period is the period of the Judges. The sixth period is the period of the United Kingdom. The seventh period is the period of the divided kingdom. The eighth period is the period of the single kingdom. The ninth period is the period of the exile, the captivity. And then the last period, the 10th period, is the period of restoration. Now, let's go over those again, and I won't number them, but you already have them numbered, or you're in the process of doing that right now. So let's go over them together. The first period is the primeval period, then the patriarchal period, and then the period of the Exodus, then the period of the conquest, then the period of the Judges, then the period of the United Kingdom, then the period of the divided kingdom, then the period of the single kingdom, then the period of the exile, then the period of the restoration. These are what I would call major headings. They are the big Roman numerals in our English language. This is how we organize and categorize and divide what we're trying to present to someone. So the primeval period will be Roman numeral 1. The patriarchal period will be Roman numeral 2. The period of the Exodus will be Roman numeral 3, and so forth all the way through. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back, and I'm going to give you dating. Some of it is approximate dating, and in the next session, I'll tell you why about that and why I have given you approximates. Some of it is just for memory's sake, and will be very particular in other dates because we can be very specific about them. But I will tell you what those are. I will tell you how I arrived at those dates, because it's very important as we go through here that I don't just disseminate knowledge to you, but that you assimilate it, that you grasp it, because it's very important that you understand what the Bible teaches. Why? Because it is what God uses to bring about reverence and respect about who He is and what He's done. So as we go through these time periods and these divisions, you understand that the Word of God is inspired. The very words of the Bible are inspired. But my divisions are not. And my dating, some of it is very clear in the Scriptures, but other I am just doing the very best I can based upon my study of Scriptures. And so here we go. I'm going to go through and date these, and then in the next session, I will help you to understand why I dated those. I date everything in the primeval period from the date of 2100 generally, but 2166 specifically. Everything that happened in Genesis 1 through 11, that primeval period, happened before 2166. The second period, the patriarchal period, I date from that period down to 1500. That's a general time frame that I will speak to in the next session. We're just going to go through the patriarchal period, and I'll begin with that the next time because I see the clock and the time is almost up. Thank you for joining. I hope that you will come ready to take notes in the next session. God bless you for joining us in On the Way Classroom.
Thanks for listening to On the Way Classroom with Dr. Tony Crisp. Tune in each weekday for more information on how to read, study, and understand the Bible. If you have questions, please write to questions@tonycrisp.org. That's questions@tonycrisp.org. questions@tonycrisp.org. Thanks for listening and have a blessed day on the way.